You guys hear me? Awesome. All right, I'm gonna start this up, play this disclaimer, then she's gonna take over. I gotta take off about 10 till 11 Central, and she'll just take it from there and end the webinar. So let's play this little chipmunk guy.
This disclosure statement deals with risk of loss in trading stocks, ETFs, commodity futures, derivatives, options, forex, and cryptocurrencies. This risk can be substantial, and therefore investors should carefully consider their financial suitability prior to trading. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. The software, strategies, chat rooms, websites, and any associated websites are digital venues for educational purposes only and should not be construed as an express or implied promise or guarantee that you will profit, that losses may be limited in any manner whatsoever. Users of the information accept full responsibility for the outcomes of their deployment in Scottpulcinitrader, LLC, and any associated companies, agents, management, owners, and customers harmless without preservation. Please trade responsibly. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, Rule 4.41, hypothetical and simulated trading performance results have certain inherent limitations, some of which are described herein. No representation is being made of any account below is likely to achieve profits or losses similar to those shown. In fact, there are frequently sharp differences between hypothetical or simulated performance results and the actual results subsequently achieved by any particular trading program. One of the limitations of hypothetical performance results is that they are generally prepared with the benefit of hindsight. In addition, hypothetical trading does not involve financial risk, and no hypothetical trading record can completely account for the impact of financial risk in actual trading. For example, the ability to withstand losses or adhere to a particular trading program in spite of trading losses are material points which can also adversely affect actual trading results. Because these trades have not actually been executed, the hypothetical results may have under or overcompensated for the impact, if any, of certain market factors such as lack of liquidity. There are numerous other factors related to the markets in general or to the implementation of any specific trading program which cannot be fully accounted for in simulated trading or in the preparation of hypothetical performance results at all, of which can adversely affect actual trading results.
Alrighty. Let's get rid of this. All right, so I'm gonna hand this off to Pamela. Pamela, you're just gonna talk, present. I'm gonna make you presenter when you're done. If I'm not here, just you just X out of the little presenter thing and it'll say end webinar for all.
And QIS by 150.
Just X out of it. All right, here we go. All right, you should have controls, Pamela.
Euro stock sell 167.
See your screen, cannot hear you. might have to unmute yourself on the control panel thingy.
Okay, how about that?
Yep, gotcha.
I have to add to Scott's disclaimer that it applies to me as well, and Traders News Network LLC and LudwigLevels.com. So that takes care of the legal business. I would like to get started on kind of a recap of the ES this morning, what I look at, and how I enter trades. I was hoping to get some real-time trades this morning, and we'll see how that goes. This is off of NinjaTrader. Your charts should look the same, almost the same in Sierra charts. And I am like Scott, I don't trade in a vacuum. This is on this higher time frame chart, a standard market profile with a point of control, value area, as well as a value area market profile using VWAP, with the lime green being the first level and the cyan being a 95% level off of the VWAP. That kind of simulates Scott's indicator where he's got the VWAP with the bands. It's kind of the same thinking, just a slightly different presentation on it. It's easier for me to read this way. The other indicator I have on here is kind of like a daily level indicator. It says if you're above this in the overnight session, you're going to this target. If you get below this in the overnight session, you're going to this target. Another little tool that I like to use in conjunction with the levels. If I scrunch this up and put my retracement on here, you can see that we've got right into that 61% area and couldn't get really past those daily targets before the selling came in, which isn't surprising considering where we're at in the markets. But off the open, we had a lot of resistance in the overnight high. In fact, broke our point of control. I did take a sell right into here. I call this on my faster Renko. It's called an up down setup. I just have one up bar followed by a down bar, which tells me the buyers that came in here that should have taken this higher kind of fell out and broke lower, took some profit there. I was actually looking for this direction line to break and go a little bit lower down into the prior level where we had some support in the overnight. That's why you kind of have to also pay attention, and just because you think it's going to do that doesn't mean that it will. My entry back into it was breaking above here around the 63.25. And again, I'm looking for the exact same things on the way up. I'm looking for here. I'm looking for, this is like a pivot level that I wrote for myself. It comes off of the daily standard pivot. The R1s and S1s are a little bit tighter. And then when I got up into this area where it was projected for my overnight targets, once I broke here, this is my down up failure. So I was looking for it to break this area and what I would call rotate back down towards my direction area. This Renko is a 214, the very fast one. It's what I call my fast chart. If I'm going to enter off that fast chart, my 7-2 Renko has to come in and confirm, or I punch out of the trade. I would probably get 1,000 verbal lashings from Scott every single day, because I'm in the thought process that I'd rather stop out at even and enter back in than take some of the heat he does. So I'm sure he's going to tell me that I'm never going to make it as a trader, but I'm still working on it, Scott. So that's what I look for. I look for movement away from these levels. I know, and I know if you're new to the levels, it's hard to have that blind trust. But by giving them some screen time and giving them some consideration, you'll find that they really do hold, and you can lean on the level just as a number. There'll be lots of times where I will take a trade just by trading the actual number. And in gold this morning, that is how that trade set up. But again, I don't do anything in a vacuum. Little VWAPs, and we all know that everybody kind of trades the VWAP, they trade the point of control, they trade the daily pivot. Those are all known trades. So we would look at that area as a test. Let's go to the gold chart. This is gold on a minute chart. I just wanted to kind of show that for people that like time-based charts, they work very well off of time-based charts as well. You can see that the daily target was hit in gold and immediately came through the direction level with some energy. And when we look at this on a Renko, it'll be really clear what your entry was on that chart. And then we came up and tested. With this energy that I had on my Renko, I would lean on this yellow line. I know I'm going back to a level. I know that I'm going level 2 level, and I am, if I can't get to one of the levels, that means I am going to revert back to a level. So I don't wait to just trade the yellow line. I will trade off of big blue, looking for the market to bounce off of that, certainly take profits there. The only time that I don't counter trend the major levels is when we are in what I would call a clear trend day. If we're in a clear trend day, which doesn't happen very often, for you to counter trend is high risk. So this is the 1 minute, and you can see the show prior I had on. Once we broke the show prior, we moved through the VWAP. This is where I would have expected to come down and test the daily pivot and the green. So now let's move to the gold on a Renko chart. And I use the 7-2 on the Renko as well. When I see this up, down, this up bar going through the direction line should have continued on up and gone higher up towards the orange line. And when this failed, I call it kind of an up-down failure. It's one of my actually favorite setups on a Renko chart. I would want to be short there and targeting down through these areas. You got another confirmation here off the up down. Couldn't get to VWAP. I use a 215 EMA on gold, and it's kind of like my trend indicator. If I'm above it, we should continue to go higher. If I break it and go below, we should move lower. So we came into that zone, gave me a down up failure. I was looking for it to come back to direction. I was looking to lean on that direction line again, and we got stuck. Very clearly got stuck between the prior and the direction line most of the morning before we broke down. Broke my EMA, retested it, broke the prior big red, and I think everybody knows how many days we got stuck in that set of levels with this red. So we know that once we broke it, it should have been a very significant support area. And if not, we're rotating back in to this level, looking to go lower, looking for green, and then down into big blue. And I think the hardest part is sitting there and kind of waiting for it to break to get to your break-even point or your retest, and you get your stop into a what I would call a comfortable place that, okay, well, worst case, I'm going to make some money on this trade, and then let it unfold. And you can see that clearly gold made you work this morning for quite some time before it paid you. Now, I am new to soybeans. I don't trade beans, but I got to say it's pretty impressive. I am also working with Bookmap, trying to incorporate that into my trading and listen and understand the ICE. Scott tells me that when I integrate that with the levels, it's going to be even more of a game changer. But soybeans, we held in the profile, standard profile stuff, test, get below your VWAP and your point of control, breaks out, breaks the direction. Now this is a place that you say, okay, if I'm short here, yeah, I want to take some profits or tighten up my stop. Because you can see that overnight, this was an area of support where we had a nice rally out of that, and it could easily hold, rotate all the way back up. So if you are shorting off of VWAP, taking that kind of trade, you really want to tighten up your stop. I would put it above this EMA, target, classic target, the pivot, and the green line, holds it and takes it down into target. I'd be flat here. But when I see this, where all this was a probe and pop right back up with a green bar, those are the trades that I really like because it holds the levels and then gets back inside. It's one of my favorite trades, is where we kind of probe the level where it should come back up and test that and hold it and break and continue to go lower and create a new set. And instead, it comes right back up, closes right through it. And like I said, it's one of my favorite setups. Hold and fight on the value area low, the EMA, and another move down. This is where I would expect, if we're going to rotate back up in beans, where we broke this little selling tail, that area should hold and we should start to go back up and rotate actually through the green and up to direction. This is a 7-2 as well. It's one of my favorite time frames on a Renko chart for what I would call a larger time frame. For gold, sometimes I'll use a 5-2. It means that the body is 7 ticks, and then it needs 2 to create the new bar. So you'll have like, I think it's 14 or 15 ticks top to bottom. For some people, that's a lot in ES. My short term is a 2-1-4. It's very fast for ES. It's very good for scalping. Now, I don't know how people trade crude, but the levels work there as well. When I looked at crude today, you can see that this morning it was very pleasant. I'm a very early morning trader. To me, 5 a.m. Central is a great time to start trading. Gold almost always has a move that initiates about 7 a.m. Central. I have two charts. The 7-2 is what I call my longer time frame Renko, and my fast chart is a 214. So there'll be two separate charts that I'll have side by side. But when I see crude, again, this time of day, it's what I would call classic. Comes in, clears the direction. This is the prior major support. Go through it. And since crude is in an uptrend, in a strong uptrend, come into here as we get towards the open in equities, forced a new set of levels. When we broke here, I would have been all over this short. We held our direction, broke through our prior major resistance, comes up, tests and holds, and falls. So that would have been a trade for me. I probably would not have entered until the break of this 1 minute bar. My pivots, I wrote for myself if there was any interest in them. I could certainly offer them. I certainly don't want to use this as a selling opportunity. I would prefer just to, but if there is an interest in my version of the pivots, I would certainly be willing to discuss it. Let's go back to the 214. I get lost in charts. Its bar size or brick size is 2 ticks. The reversal is 4, and the offset is 1. Again, the pivots, they're tighter than standard pivots, which is why there's a very high probability that you'll get to R1 or S1. It's like an 85% probability that if you break this pivot, you'll get to at least R1, S1. So double bottom, we didn't get to the direction and rotate it back up. Held our VWAP, which a lot of people would be an automatic lean on that VWAP. When you get to me the double bottom, I would take a long there at 65.5 and look at this more as a scalp since we are in kind of unknown territory. To go back higher, here's my down, up. I would not let the market get below 66 on any longs. Is there any market that anyone would like to look at in particular? Yeah, I'm looking at NQ. NQ does have a lot of volume. NQ is quite an interesting little beast. I would look at it as I came out of the sell area from yesterday. Now, if I go back to yesterday, this to me is the perfect entry with Ludwig levels. We sit here and hold it, just missed the big red, the major resistance. When this breaks, that to me is ideal sell entry in NASDAQ. This is the area that we're stuck in today. So this break area, and that doesn't surprise me that, you know, markets really do have memory. So this is a retest of that break area. It was around 95. When we held this, the kind of the daily area, coming through VWAP, this would have been a sell entry for me coming through here. Target at pivot, money here taking at the direction line, coming back up. Since I had buying coming off of my prior big red, I would lean on this area, which means I would just buy the number. And I would have a tight stop on that for NASDAQ. I really wouldn't want it to break below this area right in here at 29, because this is the 1 minute bar that closed through the direction line with a high close on it and quite a bit of buying energy. So if this buying energy is no longer there, I don't want to be long in the market. So I would lean on this number, the direction line, and clearly to get to here, we've got to clear the standard, what I would call stuff. Got to clear pivot, got to clear VWAP, got to clear the highs for the day session. If I didn't have this strong close through bar, I'm not sure I would lean on it. I make those decisions based on what's happening around the level. Okay, corn. And Scott, I enabled you for all markets, so you should be good to go on any market you want to talk about. Let's say, probably don't. It's going to be the one I don't have. And I will look at adding oil and meal. I guess I got to put a month. What's the month for corn? Anybody can help me out on that? Okay. Z, that's December corn, right? You can see I don't trade corn. Well, that do be pretty. Okay, there's our prior direction line. We held below it, probed, hit our EMA, came up. That's where I would lean on the big red. It's is it 2 a.m.? No, yeah, it was pretty early. I probably would not have gotten that trade. Could not get back up to my EMA once we broke the pivot. That's pretty tight in there. It's got to come through here with energy. Take profit in this little zone. When they're bunched like this is kind of a zone that I want to take profit in. Here's my up down bar. I would short on the break of that. And it has to, again, tight stops. I don't want it to get back above the prior. I don't want it above point of control. And this is where you just stay on in management mode, going towards target at 519 and big blue at 514. I'm not understanding the question on explaining the different colored candles. Oh, on NQ. NQ, I was oh, okay, that's just a little indicator that I use to mark outside bars. So if this is an outside bar, if it's magenta, it closed below the low. If it's blue, it closed above the prior bar's high. And I find in NASDAQ and crude, those outside bars are good for marking stop places. The levels are close in micros. Most of the time, they're very, very close. There are occasions where they have gotten offset. Lately, they've been spot on. What market would you like to see a micro? The algo is the same regardless of the market. So whether it's a micro or a full, or whether it's NASDAQ or ES, the algorithm is identical that's running. Are you asking, can you add micros to your normal subscription? I normally don't do that, but for Scott's people, I will do that. I'm going to be adding micro crude. I look at a minute chart in NASDAQ because it's easier for me to read. For some reason, with NASDAQ at how fast it can move, it's just a visual thing for me. And that's kind of hard to explain, but it just is. I have not done cattle or hogs because I had no interest in them. I'm in the process of developing out new levels for other markets. So if there is markets that there is an interest, maybe if Scott could get a collected list or something, and if then I will try and develop it. I'd like to stick, if a market has very low range, then I can't use a 7-2 Renko. It's just, I mean, you just won't have enough bars to trade the market efficiently. But if I'm in markets that have movement, then the 7-2 seems to work very well for me. We can switch this to a and I use this Ninja Renko. It's a free Renko. Comes off their website. It's a, you know, give them your email and they give you a free Renko bar. I love overnight. I absolutely love trading overnight. I'm on the central time zone, so you'll have to kind of do a time conversion. Get rid of that outside bar because they're just going to show up everywhere. Around 8 p.m., there's almost always a great trade. Levels work extremely well right off the open, the reopen of the session. And I'm primarily an ES and GC trader. I would say what I would call younger brains, they can probably trade 6 markets at a time. Are people that, you know, are more competitive than I am. I can't trade 6 markets at a time. I would love to be that person, but I'm not. 2 is kind of my max. And then when Europe opens, there's always an amazing gold trade. When Europe opens, anywhere from a $3 to $5 move. Guys can ask as many questions as you like. For my Renko, yes, it doesn't necessarily change on the product, but if there's no range, no spread, then I've got to go smaller on my Renkos. Sometimes when GC gets smaller range, I'll go to a 5-2. Let's see if I can find an example of that. Well, here's a perfect example of when we broke the lugs. With this kind of energy, we should have hit this blue level and continued to fall down. But we didn't. We had a strong close bar up and then come back in and test an assortment of areas. Big blue, the cyan, the pivot for the day, prior orange, prior big blue, after holding prior direction. That's a lot of strength in here off of this push up. Came up, hit VWAP in green. I mean, everybody was probably after this selling VWAP aggressively. and thinking that, okay, we're on our way down in crude, and anybody who's got the levels knew to take profits there. That would have been hard for me to lean on or just take the number with this kind of selling in there, just like everybody else. I would have been more in this area to be long. Certainly would want to be long coming up off of this, holding the prior major resistance, basing on the direction line, going towards our orange line if we can clear our targets for the day. Oh, okay, there was another trade that I saw this morning that came. This is yesterday. Let me get that turned off. I'm guessing there was quite a bit of buying energy coming through the pivot right into big red. This should have held. Now, Scott tells me this is when I should be hearing ICE fire off relentlessly to kind of tell me what's going to happen here. When we come back through this with this kind of energy, this should hold. This should be a trade that I would take, risking to there. Of course, this is, again, the middle of the night. So you have to decide, are you going to be that person who's, trading that or not? But if this were, normal hours, I would be leaning on this major red area. Lean it, and if it didn't break, I'll be honest, if I leaned on it and this didn't break, I'd probably be flat and then go back in again. I hate to lose. I absolutely hate to lose. And it's part of my obsession about being right. Okay, we'll just do it real quickly. This is the prior set of levels, the blue. I'll turn those off to clean up the chart a little bit. You got me there, Scott. Okay. This is the value area, the shaded area, standard value area. Nothing fancy about it. I use 70% instead of 68%. Been trading, market profile for a while. Trained under some very good market profile experts. This is VWAP, this dashed line, a little bit thicker. Then this green line on either side is a 68% profile based on VWAP rather than a standard point of control. The dark cyan is a 95% line based on VWAP. So I have two kind of ways to look at it. Again, this 95 and 68 based on VWAP is similar to Scott's VWAP band indicator. For me, this is easier to read, and I am a very visual person. If it's something that is just a little bit off for me, it drives me bonkers. This is standard daily pivot for the full session. Nothing out of the ordinary on that. These are your S1 levels, S1, S2, S3, based on my pivot. No, this is my pivot calculations. And then, of course, the R levels up. This is what I call the daily numbers. This is based on this day's range. This is a key resistance area based on the full session on the prior day. If I get above this, I should go higher, break this big red, and go up here towards this extended target. It depends on the chart I'm using to enter. I try to keep it to 2.5 to 3 ES points. If I entered on the 7-2, I will use a 4-point stop. In GC, my initial stop is 22 ticks. You want to see? Okay, I'm getting lost here. You want to? Am I on the right chart? Is this what you want to see on GC? Okay. This is what our ultimate prize was on this short of, you know, moving your stops. I see it coming into here. I see it possibly breaking through here. If we break through the 73 area, of course, that's a little bit lower. I can't make it do that, but I would be, if I have multiples on, this is where I'm taking profits. And the reason I'm taking profits here on some of it is I've got a standard pivot, which we all know. There's a lot of traders who just hit that number and will cause at least some level of a bounce. And then I have my baby lug, my target, and that's what it is. It's a target. Most of the time, we'll continue to move through those on its way to big blue or the cyan. But if I can't break here, then I don't want to sit here and hope. Thank you, Scott. Hopefully we can do it again. Maybe do a real-time trading session. I just have Bookmap set up for the ES. So that's all that I have my Bookmap set up for right now. I was trying to learn and understand Scott's terminology, his trade setups, as well as the platform. And I'll be honest, I think I've said this before, I'm on the short bus when it comes to Bookmap. I need a lot more screen time. But that's what I would be looking for. I'd be looking to say, I'm going to bank some of my money just because this is a standard pivot and I've got a green lug. I started out in engineering. I worked in flight simulation. programming visual systems for flight simulators. My claim to fame is I was the first person in the world to program weather effects for flight simulators, so pilots could train in weather. I worked on the Top Gun simulators, the A6 intruder simulators, as well as a lot of commercial. So I did that for a while and discovered trading. I started trading in, now you're all going to know how old I am, in 1992. So I've been at it a while. When I first started, I had pieces of graph paper taped together with handwritten bar charts, and did that relentlessly every single night. Taped my, calling a broker, hoping that they got back to you within 20, 30 minutes, if you were lucky. Then I moved to a 3-foot satellite dish in my backyard that gave me delayed quotes, and I thought I was big time then. And then, of course, it was DTN for farmers. They called it it wasn't IQ feed, it was DTN for farmers. So I got some charting software that they had used, and then eventually moved into TradeStation and real-time data feed, and started programming my own things in TradeStation. Their easy language to me was easy language. Programmed almost all of my own development stuff. Actually programmed the first versions of Ludwig levels, and when it went what I would call to a product offering, I turned the coding over to someone else. No, they're not available in TradeStation. I wrote them in TradeStation, but they are not available for TradeStation at this time. Right now, it's only Sierra Charts and NinjaTrader. And the only reason they're available for Sierra Charts is Mr. Skeeto, who's in the room. I met him at a NinjaTrader conference in 2015, and he twisted my arm and begged for 2 years. But I am working on Bookmap. I'm trying to figure out, getting my programmer to figure out the cloud notes. I have both I have a Sierra Chart programmer and a NinjaTrader programmer. And both of them are working the issue on Bookmap and cloud notes. And I think I was talking about Edge Pro X. I get confused on platforms after a while. I would like to have it on the chart in Bookmap. Actually on the chart. That would be more visual for me, but I'm not sure how it would get if it would get lost. I think I lost corn. Oh, corn should be heading towards big blue. The pink is this daily number that we just talked about. That's plotted on my chart every day that says based on the prior day's full session, this is the key daily areas. And then it takes the overnight session and does the same and plots that based on the overnight session, this is the key information for where the market should go to. If we break this daily down, we should go down into this area. Targets and baby lugs are the same. You'll see in your style, target is green, target is orange. Scott calls those baby lugs, I think, because of his color deficiency, that he doesn't see colors. And I work off of colors. Oh, it's going to go to the green. Oh, it's going to go to the yellow. So the baby lugs are the same as the target lines. And back to here in blue and then these are the lines off of this standard pivot. So S1, S2, S3, S4. They're kind of just what I would call roadmap markers to get me to here. This is my ultimate target and where I'd really like to cash out. And I've been using Ludwig levels on a personal level for 13 years now, 13, 14 years. And it still amazes me every day how they just suck right to a level. They'll just go there and move. And it still amazes me. So it's probably one of the few things that still amaze me in the markets. So are there any more questions? Any more markets that anyone would like to see? Oh, okay. How far do I want it to move? That to me is still a market thing. So if I'm here on the ES market, I really don't want it to probe much more than 6 to 8 ticks. I really just kind of want it to be in there and then immediately get some what I would call counter trend information. Let's see if I have this. I don't know how this is going to look. I think this messes up the market profile when I put this on here. I look at, before being introduced to Bookmap, if anyone's looked at my website, there's 2 indicators on there that one of them is trade momentum. And so I'm looking for this kind of confirmation in trade momentum. Looks like we had a bit of a push down through here. But when I see buying, because I would expect this coming up off the standard pivot, I would expect to see that. But when it breaks and the sellers come right back in, I want to stay on that. And, you know, like I said, this is an indicator that I wrote a long time ago, before order flow, before those type of measurements for what was going on. It's a flex Renko in Sierra chart. Skeeto, what you do 5, 2, 1, right? Those are the, yeah, well, for gold, we've been doing 5, 2 on gold. I just recently moved over to 7, 2 on gold because it was getting too many back and forth bars. And I use Sierra chart to do some what I would call development work with Skeeto, but it's not my main platform for trading. Let's see. And you can see that I do stumble with it. I'm in Scott's world when it comes to Sierra chart. It has taken me forever to learn how to do what I would consider simple things in Sierra chart. And there's your show prior that's now available in Sierra chart. So this is what I would expect it to come in, break that, test and hold, and continue on down to this green area. And, you know, when I get this close to the green area, I'm not a, it has to be to the tick person, especially if I've come, you know, nearly $10 in gold. I don't need to fight over that last few ticks. I'd probably get sued by the Uggs people. But again, this is where I'm taking money. I want to take money there. I want to put something in the bank. Got quite a ways to go from green to big blue. I certainly don't want to work all day and not make some money, because my ultimate goal is to make money. But this show prior has really, I don't know, it's something that I really like as a confirmation, because if this was a major resistance for a long time, we should hold it. What was once resistance is now support, you know, the blah, 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 basic tech training. But if it can't, so any more questions? I don't want to take your whole day, guys, but I'm certainly happy to stay and answer questions. Yes, I do. If I'm not using this pivot indicator, if there's a large distance, let's go back to gold, because if I'm not using my little check marks on my pivot, I am using, like I showed Scott, I come in and use the fib retracement. Interesting how it kind of, this is probably upside down too. I tend to draw it backwards a good deal of the time. Really focused on the 50% area, because that tends to be the spot where if it's not going to make it, it gets stuck. And that just happened to be VWAP as well. Interesting. And I use, gold is probably one of the few markets that I use 2 ticks. Like if I'm going to break this line, I want it by 2 ticks, not just 1. You know, I have to be honest with you, I don't know for corn or beans because I haven't traded them. I have to say, by looking at them, I may want to start trading them. I mean, to me, that's a beautiful chart. That's the 7-2. Let's take a look at the 5-2. Sometimes a 5-2 can get a little sloppy, and I like something that I'm going to get this run and that it's clear. Actually, that looks pretty good. Here's our up, down failure. Take a little bit less risk in a 5-2, so that would be a comfort zone too. Like I said, the Flex Renko is as close as I could get to it looking the same in Sierra chart. Let's go to gold where we have a 5-2 Renko. And sometimes I'm a little slow on getting stuff set up. So we went 2 bars up, and this went 3 bars up. I have a 1 at the end of mine, 521. Here you have an up down that this has more bars in it too. I mean, all we can do is try it. I would like to take the code I have for my Rankos and have it written for Sierra chart, but I have no idea how that would play out. No, it's still not the same, 520, because I have 3 up bars, and here there's only 2 on the turn, and then 2 down. So Sierra is going to look a little different than standard Rankos, and this is where my not using Sierra as much as I do Ninja. I don't know what third-party options would be for Rankos. If anybody has any resources on Ranko bars for Sierra charts, that I'd certainly be happy to take a look at them, see if we can't get it to match closer to what I'm using in NinjaTrader. With Ninja, I know that there's a lot of free versions. Again, NeuroStreet offers a free version of their Ranko. That is the one that I use for the 214 that I talked about. Used to be a paid version, now it's a free version. Fill out your email, you can get that. Ninja has a free Ranko. I will look for what's available for Sierra chart and see if we can't get closer. But if no more questions, it looks like a good time to wrap it up. Good time to go to lunch. Are people interested in maybe doing a morning session to where we're actually doing some trading? If Scott would let us do a morning session. Okay, I'll talk to him about that. The West Coast people will have to get up super early. Okay, well, I'm going to say sign off here and wish everybody a good weekend. And I'll get with Scott on another session.